All right, we're alive. The X-Files just went off the air. Episode 4, The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat. Great freaking episode. Love this episode. And, we always say it's Vince Gilligan-esque.
Hang
It's
on.
kind of Vince Gilligan-esque, but I gotta say, this episode wholeheartedly reminds me of Jose Chung's from Outer Space.
Oh, yeah, there was a little bit of that. That was I think it was a telemarketer. Just ignored it.
It's Dr. Vey.
But yeah,
Reggie.
it did kind of put me in mind of Jose Chung's from Outer Space, and there it was. I mean, as we mentioned, when we watched Mulder and Scully Meet the Weremonster, which was also written and directed by Darren Morgan, as was this episode.
Mhm.
We noticed a lot of Vince Gilligan-esque touches in there.
Yeah, I mean, like I said I said last week, even though Vince Gilligan didn't write any of the episodes this season, some of his, camera work, his direction, you can feel Vince Gilligan's spirit.
Yes, and I mean it could be a very much influence. I mean he could have had a bit of influence over. What I mean is, his directing style, his writing style has influenced, let's say Darren Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And Darren Morgan, writes and directs in a Vince Gilligan-esque manner, but he also manages to put a few of his he does manage to put his own touches into it as well.
Yeah.
So, and but it made for a great freaking episode. This was a tremendous one.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
And, it did get political. They did took some pot shots at Trump, and it's no secret I'm a huge Trump supporter. Henry, I know you're a Trump supporter, but it was done in a way that was funny and tasteful. It wasn't like, Saturday night.
I wasn't really.
Go ahead.
I wasn't offended by it. I mean, I realize it's just they're kind of satirizing a little bit, and that's what they're doing. Mm-hmm. To the alien, repeating some of Trump's lines.
Yeah, I laughed out loud for that.
That was good. That was
ass off. That was great. I mean, I was saying, it was done in a tasteful, funny way. It wasn't like SNL, who's like trying so hard to be funny, and they're not. But it was actually funny. It was done in a great way. I enjoyed it.
Yes,
and if you're a Trump supporter, I'm sure you. I suspect that you probably won't get offended. I wasn't offended at all. I thought it was great.
No, I was not offended. I mean, it takes a lot to offend me, so.
Yeah, me too.
But it starts out. It starts out in black and white, right? And
it looks like it might be that. I was instantly thinking Twilight Zone. I was like, oh man, is this going to be some kind of Twilight Zone episode? And they referenced the Twilight Zone, which it was great. I loved it.
Yes, they did. And it was like a little thing where a guy swears he sees an alien or Martian, says it has a big head, says it has multiple appendages. He's looking at him. He thinks he's looking out the window, and the clerk tells him, "No, you're not looking at. That's not a window, buddy. That's a mirror." Mirror. He's a Martian. And then the clerk turns it, or the hash slinger, you might say, turns into the devil and starts laughing.
Yeah, I saw that. And the dude that played the clerk looked familiar to me.
He kind of did.
Kind of familiar. I'm going to have to wait until they release the information of who the actors in this episode, because he looked familiar. I think I've seen him somewhere before.
He did look kind of familiar. So then they cut to the opening sequence, the classic opening sequence.
Yeah, we did see 2 opening sequences. It was the second opening. I love the second one. It was so great.
I know. Yeah, it was an a cappella version of the theme music. And it included this character, Reggie, which we're going to get into this character. So they come back from commercial, and there's a telephone ringing in the house, and Mulder comes in. He's dressed in a ghillie suit.
Yeah, so Mulder is out squatching.
It's Scully. Yeah, it's Scully trying to get in contact with Mulder. And he says, I was out squatching. Well, you're what? Bigfoot hunting. Oh, Bigfoot. Oh, you just wanted to say squatching, didn't you? You just wanted an excuse to say squatching, didn't you? That was great.
Yeah. And speaking of squatching, we're going to be taking a look at some Bigfoot videos later on tonight.
We are, yes.
We have to. It's just, because Bigfoot was so relevant in this episode.
And then he was telling Scully about his Sasquatch footprint mold that he collected 35 years ago on the shores of, I don't remember what the lake's name was. But
yeah, Scully was like, I've heard this story many times before. Mulder just hung up on him. It was great. It was, it was a hilarious episode.
I know, it was great.
Yeah, so now,
so
Mulder sees the taped X in the window. Great callback from the previous episodes of the X-Files where he tapes the X onto the window to get X.
Mm-hmm.
The black guy. Fans of the X-Files knows who X is. X is the the informant, the new informant from Mulder way back then. But go ahead, Henry.
Yeah, Stephen Williams. That was the actor that played X.
Yeah. Now, to be honest with you, I thought they was going to bring him back somehow.
That would be cool if they did. I would love to see him. That would be kind of cool.
If you haven't seen the episode, spoiler alert, X dies.
Oh, man.
Major spoiler. I think you've seen that one.
Yeah, but on the X-Files, sometimes death is not as final as it seems on the X-Files.
No one, like Chris Carter says, no one actually ever dies on the X-Files. And we've seen that countless of times.
Even the CSM himself, the cigarette-smoking man.
Which is just great, because he got blown to smithereens in the final episode.
Mm-hmm. So he is in the parking garage. He's I guess he's going to work. And this guy shows up.
Yes, yeah.
He's like this random guy that Mulder's never seen before. So,
yeah, but he knows who Mulder is. We don't know who this
guy is. Yes, he does. No, we have no clue. Who the hell is this guy? And how does he know so much about Mulder?
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, then that's funny. He calls Scully Skulls.
Because that's what Mulder always called her in the older episodes. He usually says Skull, which is great. And this guy apparently thinks that he was been in the X-Files as well, because he said I opened the X-Files. I created the X-Files, which great. After he said that, then they go to commercial break, and then after the commercial break, we see the opener again with Reggie in it. They added Reggie in the opening credits, and they showed older clips of the X-Files with him inserted in those clips. They showed the pilot. They showed Victor Toombs. They showed Home, which was great. I mean,
Mrs. Peacock. They showed Mrs. Peacock.
Yeah, Mrs. Peacock. Yeah, so they had all these old episodes.
Week as twins. Yes, she was on it last week as the twins, the twin brother and sister.
Yeah, that huge revelation that we found out during the show last week, which I did not recognize the woman, because they freaking did tremendous work of makeup on her.
They did, yeah. But let's see, and then my
but
goodness,
I just absolutely love that they took the old footage and just inserted Reggie in there. It's great.
Mm-hmm. That was funny. That was pretty hilarious. having him with the older footage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Where Scully is coming, or excuse me, Mulder is coming on to Scully, but it turned out to be a fat guy who had morphed into Mulder.
That's actually a Vince Gilligan episode, Small Potatoes.
Oh, that was Small Potatoes. Oh yeah. Shoot, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the guy morphs into people, gets impregnated, and the babies have tails.
Yes.
So Vince Gilligan was in this episode, sort of. His episode that he wrote was in this episode.
Yeah. So yeah, there was a yeah. Cool.
Yeah, so I said last week, look for the Easter eggs, and there was some pretty good Easter eggs in this episode.
There were. This guy who knows about Mulder and Scully claims that he files.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so this whole episode was basically based on the Mandela effect.
Yes. The condition where there's things that happen and you think you remember, like with the remember he gave Scully the
Jello,
the knockoff Jello.
Yeah.
It was a knockoff brand of Jello to make a
like a 3-layer Jello mold.
Yes, a 3-layer Jello mold, but it was, like I say, it was a knockoff brand, and you know, Scully said, you know, I've been looking for this stuff. You know, people said that I was remembering
Jello
that was not. People said that I was remembering Jello 1, 2, 3, not this stuff. Goo something.
Like Goop ABC.
Goo ABC. That was Goo AB. Yeah, and he.
Yeah,
and she's like, I swear. And of course, you know, it also ties in with Mulder. Mulder is looking for this videotape because he remembered this episode of The Twilight Zone, or so he thought.
And I love how they do the flashback with Kid Mulder, and they just have a little body with his head, with actually David Duchovny's head on it. That was great.
I know, that was freaking hilarious.
Same episode that we saw in the teaser. And you know, it's little Kid Mulder with David Duchovny's head. I guess Jiffy Pop. It's like, oh, and he was like jumping up and down and shaking. Oh, it's so freaking great. That was hilarious.
It was something that he remembered from his childhood, and he swore it was a Twilight Zone episode, but he couldn't find anything about it online. He couldn't find he couldn't find in his Twilight Zone DVD box set. And then he started talking about, remember last week's episode, we thought that was going to be about parallel universes. This week, Mulder starts talking about parallel universe.
Yeah,
we're in a parallel universe.
that's what I was. That's exactly what I was getting at, because they showed previews of it, and Mulder was talking about parallel universe, and I thought, okay, we're gonna have a parallel universe episode. This is gonna be great. And it's sort of, I guess last week was sort of parallel universe somehow. Because it was like multiple people that sees it's double, you know, so it's sourcey. I was going to say something, but I forgot what it was.
Yeah. Well, it was just tremendous.
The way they Twilight Zone. Vince Gilligan is a fan of the Twilight Zone, so maybe with tying it in, little Vince Gilligan, I gotta figure out some way to tie Vince Gilligan in all this. But the Twilight Zone episode, Scully's like, oh, maybe you just misremembered it. It might have been something else. And Mulder's like, me misremember a Twilight Zone episode?
Yeah. So, because it sounds like he's like the biggest Twilight Zone nerd there is. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
He remembered seeing this episode. He swore up and down it was a Twilight Zone episode. Turned out to be something called Dusky.
Yeah, it's some kind of made-up thing. They probably just made up for the show.
Yes. Yeah. That was pretty hilarious. At the end, and I mean, it was funny to see the moments with Reggie claiming, or saying he created the X-Files.
Going
and
back to
then their final case.
Going back to the second opening, when we first see Reggie, he says his name is Reggie something. In the opening sequence, he said Reggie something. It's
Skinner, great. It was actually in place of Skinner.
Yeah, they didn't shoot
Skinner.
Skinner was in this episode, but just a brief period.
At the end, near the end, he says, "Hey, where the hell are they taking Reggie?"
I like the car. I like the car that the Insane Asylum people were driving. It looked like the Ghostbusters mobile. The Ecto 1.
The what?
The Ecto 1. From the Ghostbusters.
Exactly. Too. I said, oh my God, it looks like the Ecto 1. I know, it looked just like it. I think it was like a converted hearse or converted ambulance, because ambulances used to look like that.
It might have been like a ambulance, I think, but it looked exactly like the Ecto 1. I was like, okay, are they going to do ghost busting now or something? It's like, it was so great.
Oh, I know, that was absolutely tremendous. But I mean, everybody talked about the Mandela effect, and then of course, Reggie is talking about this mysterious individual named Dr. They. And Dr. They apparently a UFO had crashed. I can't remember what town it was. It wasn't Roswell. It was like a. I cannot remember what town it was, but it was near a town. They took in the aliens. One of the aliens was talking telepathically with Dr. They.
Now that right there is a Twilight Zone episode, because there was an alien. The whole how to cook for men, or how to cook man.
No, it was called To Serve Man. To Serve Man was the name of the episode.
Yeah, because the alien in that one spoke telepathically to everyone.
Right. Yes. And do you know who was playing that alien in that Twilight Zone episode? That was Richard Kiel, aka Jaws from the James Bond movies.
Yes, him.
That's who that was. He was a big dude. He was like 6'9", maybe 7 foot. He was a big guy. But yeah, that was him. He was also in Happy Gilmore.
He was.
Yeah, he was in Happy Gilmore. But yeah, that was I noticed that was almost like a direct reference to that episode of the Twilight Zone, because same makeup, same big head and everything. Very, very similar.
Yeah.
So there were a lot of references to the Twilight Zone. Oh, and remember Mulder said near the beginning about well, sure, it'd be funny as hell if Rod Serling showed up. And then he says, submitted for your, and then after Reggie takes off, he says, submitted for your approval.
It would have been great if they had like a Rod Serling lookalike or something.
Yeah.
And then just like they pan the camera over to him and he goes off to the monologue.
That would have been, that would have been tremendous. That would have been tremendous. A real, another, I don't think they wanted to make this a full Twilight Zone parody, but they wanted to give little, what you might call, it was like little nods here and there, yes, and kind of a tribute almost to the show. So Mulder is so yeah. Reggie shows Mulder and Scully the video of Dr. They.
Yeah.
And he's been there for all these important events, including Richard Nixon. He was there with Nixon, and he was at the inauguration. Except he was on the Washington Monument wearing a "Make America Great Again" hat.
It's great. I mean, oh man, it was hilarious. And speaking of Nixon, Reggie goes into this shop with all this memorabilia, and I noticed in the background it was like "Lick It with Dick."
Oh yeah. Well, it was because when he was a kid, he remembered this children's author who was very similar to Dr. Seuss. His name was Dr. Wuzzle, and he always remembered he spelled his name a certain way
with 2 S's, but it had 2 Z's. So he goes to the shop owner, and it had 2 Z's, and he's like, "What is going on here?" and everything. Then he goes back to the shop owner, and I love the part when they go back when they do the first time. They showed the lawn darts, and they like have one lawn dart falling. So that was kind of foreshadowing of what's going to happen. They go back to the shop owner, and there was a lawn dart sticking, straight in his mouth, going out. Oh. I laughed so hard on that. I just laughed. I was like, "Oh my god, this is so freaking cool." It was gruesome. It's awesome.
See, Shane, lawn darts may be before your time, but
I know what lawn darts is.
Back in the day,
that's what it
is. Jeff Foxworthy did a bit about lawn darts. You could down an elk with a lawn dart. He said, if you throw one of those up in the air and catch it with your head, you're getting Christmas coloring books for Christmas the rest of your life.
Yeah, surprisingly, I actually know what lawn darts are. Because so they were made in the 70s.
Yeah,
it's like the actual game of darts, but you go outside and you throw it. Whoever came up with that is a freaking genius. Take a freaking metal object that's really sharp and everything, and start throwing it at people. Because that's how you
perfectly safe, perfectly safe for kids, right?
Yeah, I mean, totally. I'm surprised Scully didn't know what it was.
That was like having a wood burning kit.
Oh yeah, I remember
with
those.
The gun, which had the little cord that was just 2 inches. The cord that was like 3 inches long, just short enough to guarantee it would be right by the curtains.
Yeah, I mean, man, the 70s were great. Giving kids weapons and say, "Hey, go outside."
Chemistry sets. Don't forget chemistry sets.
Oh yeah, you could blow up.
Yeah, they used to sell chemistry sets in the Sears catalog.
Oh
every
man,
year
you guys
for Christmas.
You could order great stuff.
You could order a chemistry set.
Hey kids, you want to cook your own meth? Here you go. Here's your chemistry set.
Yes. That's hilarious.
Man, you guys had the cool toys. We just had Nerf guns and water pistols, and we didn't have anything violent. I mean, what else did they give kids back in the 70s?
But yeah,
shotguns.
That was a funny moment when he goes back to the store and the store owner got the right through his neck. Oh man.
Yeah, that was so freaking gruesome. I liked it.
It's like, dude, why are you hanging that up on the ceiling, pointing down, knowing there's a good chance it could just one day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh man. So So Mulder meets with Dr. They, and Dr. They start talking about how different things are manipulated, how Dr. They could possibly manipulate people's minds to make them think one thing that is true.
Mm-hmm.
They start talking about how what he called phony fake news. That's what he called his video.
Yeah, so we found out that Dr. Vey actually made that video and put it on YouTube.
Yes, he did.
That was hilarious. That is freaking hilarious. Oh man, I love this episode. It's so basic, but we never got okay. So if Reggie was in the insane asylum, if he was the whole twist of this thing is that Reggie was actually is a real person. His name was Reginald. He went through the CIA, which I love. They did the waterboarding bit. He's just there.
Oh yeah, he was
waterboarding.
He was an IRS. He was an IRS.
He was in the FBI. He was in the CIA. Then he became in the NSA to listen to all conversations. Okay, so we found out that that's the big twist. He went insane. But Dr. They is Dr. They real? Because Mulder actually met with this person.
Yes, he did meet with Dr. They, so it does make you wonder. But I think Dr. They was real.
Or could he be some dude from the insane asylum?
Mulder met them, so he had to have been real.
Or maybe or could Dr. They, did some kind of mind control device on Mulder and Scully to make it think that he was insane or something. I mean, so many open-ended questions in here.
Yes, I'd have to agree with that. There are a lot of course, near the end, I mean, the climax is, Scully's driving the car. It looks like TV shows where they would have a stationary car in the studio. They'd have a background and then he'd be moving,
I love that.
That was great.
Absolutely. And then at the
end,
they
see this UFO, and then they also see the Voyager, which is there is an actual Voyager which flying up around, flying in space, has the gold record that plays actual music, and it crashed apparently. And Reggie finds the gold record, and then the alien shows up, and he's speaking to them, gives them the book, The Answers to Everything. Them says, "No, not Sasquatch, no." And we never find out what it was about, but it was freaking hilarious.
Yeah, and Mulder just started crying and begging his face. That's so great. He was like a little kid.
It was hilarious. I mean, did he find out Sasquatch wasn't real? I mean, what exactly happened? That'd be my question.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was freaking hilarious, his reaction to that.
Yeah, I thought this episode was hilarious. It was great. If I had to rate this, I got to give it a 9 or 9.5. It was that great. It was
a 10. I'm giving it a perfect 10. It was freaking hilarious.
Yeah,
it was a great standalone. It was a standalone episode. Had nothing to do with the line with William and all that. So
yeah.
Don't forget, near the end, at the end, they had the Scully put the Jello mix or the in the Bigfoot mold.
Knock off Jello into the Bigfoot mold, and they was eating it. It was great. Oh man!
Well, actually, they didn't eat it because
they didn't eat it. Yeah.
Scully said, "I want to remember how it was. I want to remember how it was." Is what Scully said. She did was kind of sit there and look at it, look at the spoon. So, but that, I love the way it ended. I mean, just tremendous the way they ended it. They didn't end it with them eating it. I think that would have been predictable if they just ended it with them eating it, but it made it more unpredictable.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
giving it. Yes, I'm giving it a perfect 10. Yes, like I say, it's and Skinner saying, "Where the hell are they taking Reggie?"
Yeah,
so apparently he knew Reggie. Even if Reggie's story about starting the X-Files is not true, he knew Reggie.
Well, Reggie. Well, they said that Reggie worked in the FBI, so he might have, came across him somehow. But that was a great Skinner cameo because you just on the screen for like a half a second. Where the hell are they taking Reggie? And boom, that's it.
I know. That was tremendous. That was absolutely tremendous. But yeah, this is much like Mulder and Scully Meet the Weremonster was my favorite episode of season 10. Yeah. Season's not over, but so far it's in the running as far as favorite episode of this season.
Yeah. I mean, if I had a
both written and directed by Darren Morgan.
Yeah.
Absolutely tremendous.
Mm-hmm. Man, I might have to bump it to 9.5, 10 this episode because it was that good. I love it. I mean, I love how they can 1 week having some people getting killed by their doppelganger and getting hanged and that whole awesome twist, and this week being flat out hilarious. It's the epic, compare and contrast and whatever you want to call it between each episodes. It's so freaking. And the next episode is going to be flat out scary as hell because I've seen previews of this. It's going to be like this freaking huge monster with these big claws and everything.
Yep.
And it's going to tie into William somehow. Skinner's going to be in it.
Yep.
And just, after this episode, it's going to get pretty dark and scary next week.
I know, yeah. But tonight, oh my gosh, one of the best ones of this season so far. Absolutely a tremendous episode.
Oh man,
this was it was great comic relief. I mean, which that was something that I truly enjoyed. I mean, I saw that Jonathan Wilk from Massachusetts was posting. He said, "This is a tremendous episode."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a top contender for my favorite of this season.
Yeah, and for the name of this episode, "Lost Art of Forehead Sweat." When we first meet the guy,
Reggie, he was sweating.
He was sweating at his forehead. So that's how they came.
And Mulder or Scully made mention of his forehead sweat also.
His sweaty
Scully,
forehead,
yeah.
When Scully first met with him.
Yes. So yeah, that. Oh my goodness, this gets a major thumbs up. This was a tremendous one. This was.
Yeah.
This was one of the best ones. Definitely one of the best new ones. The newer one.
Mm-hmm. All right, I have to ask, which was better, Mulder and Scully Meet the Weremonster or The Lost Art of Forehead Sweat?
Oh gosh, oh man, that's like, that's a tough choice. That's a tough choice because they're both written and directed by Darren Morgan.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think they had a bit of a different vibe to each of them. They had a bit of a different vibe. I'll give Weremonster a slight edge because it had because the twist was a little bit more unexpected to me in that one.
Yeah. Well, let's go ahead and spoil the twist. The twist was that the guy was actually not a human at all. He was a freaking monster. So it's the reversed Wolfman, basically.
He was an actual monster, but his thing was he would turn into a human rather than the other way around.
Yeah, the reverse Wolfman. So that's where the Weremonster comes in.
That's what that was. See, that was the twist I was not expecting. You see.
Yeah, I love that. I love how they differentiate from that. It was just great.
Yeah, I would recommend everybody seek that episode out. Throw it in your Netflix machine. I believe they do have season 10. Yep. It's episode 3, season 10, episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
Mulder and Scully Meet the Weremonster. Highly recommended viewing for sure.
Mm-hmm. For me, Weremonster or Forehead Sweat, that's a tough decision for me to make. I have to go with I'm going to go with Forehead Sweat. I really enjoy Forehead Sweat a little bit more. And because I love the whole plot line of the Mandela effect. And I love the whole, them going back into time and they showing all the old clips and inserting Reggie in it. I thought that was great. That was hilarious. And, it's just, I have to say that was a little bit better. I have to go with that.
Yeah. One thing that I really appreciate about Weremonster was, that when he was a human, he was dressed like Carl Kolchak. Kolchak the Night Stalker. So that also to me kind of put me over the top as far as Weremonster being my favorite over Forehead Sweat. But that's not taking anything away from Forehead Sweat.
But notice in Weremonster, Kolchak the Night Stalker, it was one of the influences for the X-Files. This one, another influence, Twilight Zone.
Yes, that's right.
So again, I love Darren Morgan. He does some great work. He does tremendous. He writes some tremendous episodes. And I love this one. And I cannot wait.
And Darren McGavin actually guest starred on 1 or 2 episodes of the original X-Files.
Yeah, he did. Man, I loved man, I cannot find anything wrong about this episode. Like the second episode and the first episode, they're all right. And then I loved that last week's episode.
Yeah, definitely. That one was really good.
It's like, again, like I said,
plus one.
Yeah, plus one was great. It was really strong. I love that one. But like I said last week, it's like, the first 2 episodes are trying to find their footing. The third episode, it seems like they found their footing. 4th episode, boom. Hopefully next week's episode, we're going to have another boom.
Yeah.
So I hope they can continue this momentum.
I mean, and I love the twist of last week's where it turned out it was the same actress that played Mrs. Peacock, and she's playing 2 different characters, male and female.
Yeah. Chucky and Judy.
Yes, that was absolutely amazing. Yeah, but yeah, this episode, this is a top contender for best episode of the season so far.
And we're on the halfway point. Next week's the halfway point, episode 5.
Yeah, that's right, episode 5. Yeah,
episode 5 is Ghoulie.
Ghoulie,
Ghoulie, Ghouli.
Yeah.
And the previews.
Yeah.
It looks freaky.
It does.
Freaky. I cannot wait for the previews. I cannot wait for next week.
Yeah, it's going to be tremendous.
Yeah, so basically the synopsis, and I'm reading this from the X-Files Wikipedia fan page. A pair of teenage girls attack one another, each believing the other to be a monster. Mulder and Scully found that their investigation could possibly lead back to William. So this episode is probably going to tie into William somehow and continue that. Man,
yes, because I think let's see, episodes 3 and 4 didn't really tie into William all that much. It really didn't.
Not really. But
episodes 1 and 2 kind of did.
Yeah.
Or did a little, but this one and last week, they were kind of standalone. They were really great standalone episodes.
Well, last week they did mention having another kid, so they did mention that.
Sort of,
a little bit of William, but it didn't really actually tie into it.
Right? Yeah, it did, and yeah, but this week was just plain, just out and out. The good thing I liked about tonight's episode is there was humor, but they didn't overdo it with the humor.
Yeah,
it was very, very restrained, very subtle. But there were that's not to say there weren't humorous moments in this episode. There were.
Yeah, I mean, it was so freaking hilarious. I laughed out at the hardest laugh had it been Little Mulder. That was like the
Oh, yeah.
hardest laugh I've ever had.
I was laughing at that too.
I mean, if you guys haven't watched the episode yet, I'm so sorry for spoiling it for you guys. But Mulder, they have their little kid. They CGI David Duchovny's head on his body, and he's just up and down and like, it's like, oh my god, it was so freaking. You got okay. You probably seen George Lopez, right? George Lopez show. They remember when they did that for George Lopez when he was a little kid, and they did the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That's what kind of reminded me of back when George Lopez was funny.
Yes. Yeah, but very similar. Very similar. Yes, definitely. But yeah, this was a tremendous one.
Jesse Adams asked, "What do you guys think? What do you guys make of this man appearing so many times as an Easter egg this season?" This man, will you elaborate some more, Jesse?
Yeah, which man are we talking about? Because you need to be kind of specific about it because.
Yeah, this man was. Is he talking about Dr. They?
Dr. They. Well, he only appeared in this episode, but you know.
What do you guys make of this man appearing so many times as an Easter egg this season? This man, I'm not sure. Jesse, if you're still watching, elaborate some more. All right, let's see here. But I think we covered the big parts of this episode. Again,
yeah, I think we did.
I have to go 9.5, 10. That's how I rate this episode, 9.5, 10. So freaking hilarious.
Yep, it was.
Oh, let's see here. So let's take a look at some Bigfoot videos.
Yes.
And maybe,
but before we do, Shane, real quick, I want to send out a special, condolences to the family of John Bindernagel. He passed away. He lost his battle with prostate cancer last Wednesday night, age 76. And I had when I had the online memorial service for him, I call him John Alvin Bindernagel. It was actually John Albert Bindernagel. I got his middle name wrong.
Oh, but yeah,
I mean, it's close enough though. I mean, Alvin, Albert, but yeah,
just like a syllable two off.
Yeah, but I mean, John was one of the better, one of the more scientific minds. He was a retired wildlife biologist.
Okay. Jesse said he was in the photo with the lone gunman in Mulder's house, appeared on the drumhead in the teaser last week, was front and center of Mulder's bulletin board this week. His images keep showing up. I must have missed that. I remember I saw the bulletin board and they showed the conspiracy thing that came out over the election of Ted Cruz and his father, and Mulder was trying to connect.
Oh yeah, theories and all that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna have to rewatch the episode again, but
yeah,
if going by Jesse's analysis, if this guy that's been appearing so many times in the Easter egg, I mean, either A, he had been a part of the older season somehow that I must have missed, or he might be involved in the whole William angle. That's what I have to speculate.
Interesting. That would be. I think that would be another layer added to the show. Character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I had to speculate, I think maybe he might tie into the William story arc.
Perhaps, yeah.
That's my speculation.
Right, yeah. is just again, I can't wait to see what happens next week. I mean, because next week is just going to be a straight up, Monster of the Week episode.
Yes, I think I'm gonna enjoy this episode next week. I think I'm gonna enjoy it. I think it's gonna be a great episode. Skinner is going to be looks like he's going to be a major part in that episode as well, because we saw in the trailer, in the teasers for next week, Skinner is going to be involved somehow. I think this may lead up to Skinner's solo episode that I'm really anticipating for, because there's going to be a Skinner solo episode, and I am really on my edge of seat waiting for that one. I think I'm going to enjoy that one so much.
That is. See how well see what Mitch Pileggi does. I think he'll do great.
Yeah. All right. Jesse said to Google this man. You'll see research on it. Let me Google it. This man X-Files. Another point I like to make in this episode, when Mulder meets with Dr. They, and they was surrounded in the statues.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely love that camera angle. I love the camera shot. I thought it was a great camera. I could have actually seen those statues used in maybe a Vince Gilligan production, maybe in like Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad. I can actually see the Vince Gilligan using that.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
All right, let's see.
We saw right when Dr. They and Mulder, were finished, were finished meeting. Mulder is standing in front of a statue that's doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's almost as if it's shrugging its shoulders, which I thought that was pretty interesting as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was a great visual. I love that visual. Let's see here. All right, so this man in the X-Files series.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm looking on thisman.org. This man in the X-Files series. And there's
a website. There's actually a website devoted to this.
I'm guessing there's an actual website being devoted to this. All right, I got to screen share this. Okay, let me screen share this for you guys.
Yes, please do. Yeah, I want to see this.
All right, and let's present to everyone. All right. All right, so this man in the X-Files series.
I see him, yeah.
And this is the photo I think Jesse's talking about. There's a guy right here. I'm guessing that's the guy.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so too. There's certainly a resemblance, yes.
I'm guessing, yeah, I think, yeah, this lines up. So this is the guy that everyone is seeing in these episodes. So it's an Easter egg. And I've never seen that face before.
Nope.
This man in the X-Files series, something odd happens in this. The second episode of season 11 of the X-Files. There's a picture on the table close to the couch where Mulder and Scully are sleeping, while a concert of the Ramones runs mute on the TV. In the picture are the lone gunman with an extra face. It's this man popping up. Eric Adams of the AV Club says he could be the key to decrypting the whole season of the X-Files.
Oh.
Let's see here the history.
All the patients refer to him as this man. From January 2006. Wow.
So in January of 2006 in New York, a patient of a well-known psychiatrist draws the face of a man that has been repeatedly appearing in her dreams. And this more than one occasion, that man has given to her advice on private life. The woman swears she has never met this man, never met the man in her life. The portrait lies forgotten on the psychiatrist's desk for a few days until one day another patient recognized the face and said that the man often visited him in his dreams. He also claims that he has never seen that man in his waking life. The psychiatrist decides to send the portrait to some of his colleagues that has the patients with the recurring dreams. Within a few months, 4 patients recognize the man as a frequent presence in their old dreams. All the patients refer to him as this man. From January 2006 until today, at least 2,000 people have claimed to have seen this man in their dreams in many sites over the world: Los Angeles, Berlin, Sao Paulo, Tehran, Beijing, Rome, Barcelona, Stockholm, Paris, New Delhi, Moscow, etc. At the moment, there's no ascendant relation or common trait that the people have dream of this man. Moreover, no living man has ever been recognized as resemblance in the man portrait by the people who have seen them in the dreams. Okay, so apparently this, I'm going to call it a meme because this meme goes around. If these people are seeing this dude's face in their dreams, I wonder if that has to tie in with Scully seeing William in her dreams. Because if we go back to the very first episode, she was, visualizing the future. She was predicting the future, and it hasn't all happened yet. So I'm wondering if the reason why this guy's face is plastered as an Easter egg in every single episode, it has to say, hey, Scully and William are somehow communicating telepathically to one another, and she's seeing what he's seeing, and he's seeing what she's seeing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think?
Oh, it's a good theory. Who is this guy? And I imagine we'll find out who this guy is by the end of the season. But very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, who is this guy? That is going to be the main. I think that's going to be the main. That's going to be the main question. And if they keep showing this guy, and there's what do you call it?
An entire site dedicated to him in an Easter egg.
Easter egg. He's an Easter egg basically, but it's almost like what would you call it? Subliminal. Mm-hmm. Like they're subliminally injecting him into these episodes.
Mm-hmm.
But people are only dreaming that they see this guy. He's not. He doesn't seem to, or he has not made himself a physical entity as of yet.
Mm-hmm. And even in the photograph with the lone gunman, he's in the background and he's not even, that visible. He's more of like a ghost figure.
Yes, right. He's more of a ghostly presence in the photograph.
The only thing I have to say is that just watch and see what happens, see what they want to do. See if this guy actually is going to play a part or a role in this, or if it's just an Easter egg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's yeah. That's just freaky. That's just freaky, guys.
Yeah.
Who is this guy? You know, what connection does he have to the X-Files?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, comment below what you guys think. You know, what's going to happen? Is this guy going to have a role in it, or is it just going to be an Easter egg, or is this going to be is this going to be foreshadowing, of what's going to happen between Scully and William?
Or could it possibly be William?
Ooh, you think William's going to be that old? Because that dude's look pretty old.
Well, no, let's not forget that who was it? Was it oh gosh. Mr. Y, not Mr. Y, but I mean, perhaps there's like accelerated aging. Who knows? I don't know.
It seems like we're going to see in the teaser next week. It seems like we're going to see William next week. That's what I'm suspecting in the teaser.
Maybe. Now, whether that's William or not, I'm just putting it out there that, I don't know for sure. I'm just throwing it out there as a theory, just kind of a brainstorming type thing.
Yeah. Well, who knows? I mean, could it be William? Maybe. Maybe not. Jeez. I've never even heard of this meme. I guess you can call it a meme. I've never even heard of this until now.
Right. Yeah, me neither. This is
freaky.
Mm-hmm.
That's some X-Files shit right there.
Oh, literally.
All right.
All right. Let's get to our Bigfoot stuff. Yeah.
All right. So I just grabbed this out of nowhere. Top 5 most compelling pieces of Bigfoot evidence. So if you guys are new that's watching this, what we do is try to watch videos relating for the episode, and Mulder was squatching in this episode, so let's watch some Bigfoot videos.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this is from top 5 most compelling pieces of Bigfoot evidence. It's pretty long, but we can run into overtime. And I think this is just the teaser, I guess you can call it.
That's what do you call it? Like a montage of newspaper articles.
Yeah.
Some of them from tabloids, because that says Weekly World News.
Oh, that's clearly real, right
that's
there.
One of Paul. That's one of Paul Smith's. That's some of Paul Smith's artwork.
Yeah, that was a great.
I'm familiar. Skookum Cast, Jeff Meldrum.
Skookum Cast. All right. Let's pause this, and Henry, you're our Bigfoot historian. Take it away.
I think they are talking about 5 most compelling pieces of Bigfoot evidence. They're not necessarily talking about photographic evidence. It looks like they're talking about also physical evidence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, history on the Skookum Cast. It was found in Skookum Meadows, in an area in the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest between Mount St. Helens and Mount Adams. It was, I believe, September 22nd, 2000. Now, the background to this is the BFRO was on an expedition in that area. Tom Powell, the author of The Locals, suggested they put out some fruit to perhaps bait something. They had been hearing vocalizations that they couldn't identify, and they were coming from up on a mountain, up on a high mountain ridge. And they had been playing these. They've been broadcasting these. The famous Ohio Howl. They've been broadcasting it through this like a large, almost like a battleship horn, which was owned by, I believe, John Freitas. It's at BFRO on the side. And they were broadcasting that call, and they were getting what they said was a similar call back. And one night, as I said, Tom Powell suggested that they put out some fruit as bait in a mud wallow. And this was done by Tom Powell and Derek Randalls. and I believe Alan Terry also. So next morning they go out there, and there's this impression that they can't identify. It has, I mean, as you can see by the photo, there are the marks that are identified as possibly a buttock. Mm-hmm. Prints, 3 heel prints, a thigh print, forearm, wrist, and a hand on an elbow. Mm-hmm. So Rick Knoll, who was also with them at that time, apparently, just I guess for purposes of I'm not really sure why he had 200 pounds of plaster, but he did. He just happened to have, I believe he was keeping it for a friend of his. And they used plaster to make an impression of whatever this was. Because they thought there's a possibility this could be from an unknown primate. This could be Bigfoot. Because they've been hearing the vocalizations. If a Bigfoot were to have, instead of walking into the mud wallow, that it laid down and then reached its arm across to grab the fruit, which they've observed gorillas in the zoo doing that. That perhaps that's what that is. And they took the impression, they reinforced it with tent poles, they put it in the back of a vehicle and very carefully got it out of there and got it to a location. And they examined it. They had Grover Krantz there. Jeff Meldrum was there. Henry Fehrenbach. Leroy Fish, who is no longer with us. Grover Krantz, of course, is no longer with us. So they determined that it looked as if it was done by an unknown primate. And even Dr. Darris, the late Dr. Darris Swindler, who had played the role of a skeptic for so many years in different Bigfoot documentaries, looked at it and seemed to be convinced that it was an unknown primate, and not of an elk, not of a deer, or anything like that. We had Derek Randles on MNBRT radio about a month ago, and because he was there. And I asked him, I said, a lot of people have asked the question, why there were no footprints leading up to that mud wallow. He said, because the ground around it was very hard, it was not conducive to footprints. Now, if the creature had walked right out in the middle of that mud wallow, it would have left tracks, but not in the area surrounding the mud wallow. Mm-hmm. So, is this of a Sasquatch? Well, I mean, that's been the debate for over 17 years. And nobody really knows for sure. I mean, there are those who said, a lot of the Bigfooters have said, yes, it's an impression of a Sasquatch. And a primatologist, name is Ron Brown, he has said that it's probably of a unknown primate. It's not of an elk. It's not of a, and they talked to elk experts. They went to elk experts. Jeff Meldrum went to elk experts. Derek Randles, and told them to take a look at it. They looked at it. Rick Knoll took it to elk experts, and they said, no, this is not of an elk. So, I mean, it's a big controversy. And
do you think it's a bear?
No, it's not a bear. No, I don't think it's of a bear. To this day, and I've gone on record as saying, I don't know what made it. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those controversial issues that it's never going to be resolved to anybody's satisfaction one way or the other.
Yeah.
We can't really say it was done by a Sasquatch because nobody actually saw it do it. Mm-hmm. Now, if they had cameras pointed to that area, we might have gotten We might have got, if they had like thermal cameras pointed at it, we might have, gotten some footage, some thermal footage of it, of whatever made the impression, making the impression. I wish that they thought to do that.
Yeah. That would have been epic if they would have gotten that on camera.
But for some strange reason, unfortunately, they didn't think to do that. If they had thought to do that, the controversy might have been settled.
Mm-hmm.
The controversy over this piece of evidence. And, I saw John Green's copy of the Skookum Cast in 2011. And it's the same impression. It was just reversed. Him a copy of it, a reverse copy of it, and it's very interesting because I've seen it in person. So you really can't tell what's just looking at it. You really can't tell what is what. You really can't tell what is supposed to be. What's this supposed to be? What's this mark supposed to be? And they took a mold of what they thought was the Achilles tendon. And Jeff Meldrum has the mold of that, and they've made copies of that mold. Cliff Barackman actually sells copies of that mold of the Achilles tendon, or what is allegedly the Achilles tendon. So, but I mean, what made the Skookum Cast? I have no idea.
Yeah,
was it a Bigfoot? Might have been.
I'm gonna have to go with undecided on this.
Yes, exactly.
It would be great. It would be great if it was a Bigfoot laying down. It would have been just epic.
Yes, it would have been. Yeah, that's Henry Fernbach. He was one of the scientists that looked at it. That was from that Sci-Fi Investigates program.
And I guess that's what the
that's a map of the actual area where it happened. Okay, there's some alleged dermal ridging, and that's the illustrations by Pete Travers, demonstrating that they put the fruit right in the middle of this mud wallow. Sure, allegedly out to the middle of the mud wallow, laid down, and then there's John Bindernagel also looking at it. All three of them have passed on, of course. Grover Krantz, John Green, and John Bindernagel. And that's Pete Travers' interpretation of Squatch. That's how it happened. They laid down and reached over. Like I said, they've seen gorillas in the zoo doing that. Where that's Henry Fernbach.
That looks like some hair samples.
Supposedly some hairs were collected from the cast itself. And Fernbach examined some of those hairs and said that they did not match any known animals. Except they matched primates. But again, it's unknown primates. We don't know for sure if it's from Sasquatch or not, because we don't have a specimen to compare it to. There's the elk argument. As you can see, the hoof prints would have been in the middle of the of it. Yeah, there were no hoof prints in the middle of the Skookum Cast.
No. I think you could probably
that much
tell.
I could.
Yeah, you probably could tell if it was an elk or not. That the cast does not look like an elk.
Well, I'm just saying that much I could see when I saw the Skookum Cast. I did not see any elk prints that would indicate something, because an elk would have to stand up like that. It would have to rise up. It would have to use its knees first, and then do this, push up. And it would leave its hoof prints in the middle.
Yep.
I mean, and the of course, opinion on the Skookum Cast is very divided in the Bigfoot community. Some think it's elk. Some think it may be an unknown primate. I know several Bigfooters who are convinced that it is an elk.
All right. So that was number 5.
Okay, next. Yeah,
number 4.
Yeah, that was number 5. Number 4.
Freeman footage.
Paul Freeman. Oh, this is we're gonna get in some controversy here too. See what this is. All right, hand cast. Now, a lot of people thought that his footage might be real. That's the footage. The not Memorial Day. That was from. Trying to think what area that was. I want to say it was the Mill Creek watershed, near the Mill Creek watershed, which is close to Walla Walla, Washington. There are those who say that's actually his son in a Bigfoot suit. Because if you look at the if you look at the original unaltered footage, if you look at the footprints that he is videoing, right up to where he videos that, the footprints don't look very natural at all.
All right, let's see.
They don't look like real actual feet. They look like they were, they look like they were molded from something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to show the actual uncut footage. I think they're all right. That's one of the footprints. I mean, does that really look like a viable foot? I mean, if you take a look at it,
it looks like the foot that Mulder had in that tonight's episode.
Yes, it does. It absolutely does. Yes. And I mean, Freeman admitted on Good Morning America in 1987 that he hoaxed tracks.
Mm-hmm.
So if he admits that he hoaxed tracks, then what does that say about any other alleged evidence that he had?
Mm-hmm.
That calls all of his alleged evidence into question. If he says he hoaxed tracks. Now I can think of 2 individuals. One's no longer with us. One individual is no longer with us. That's Grover Krantz. The other is Jeff Meldrum, who have bought into the Freeman stuff, especially the alleged footprints. Mm-hmm. Now, I believe that's where it supposedly picks something up. Now, let's see. Look at the footprints.
Yeah, you can tell.
Number one, why are they going? Why are some of them going in this direction? Why are some of them going in the other direction?
Yeah.
He just says, "Oh, there he goes."
Yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
He's not really very convincingly excited.
Genuine,
I don't think
about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember the first time I saw this footage. It was on a tabloid show called Hard Copy in 1992. And Grover Krantz was talking about the Patterson-Gimlin film, and then they showed this footage, but they never did get Krantz's opinion on this footage, though. But they had an individual. He was a forestry worker named Rod Johnson, and yes, that was his name. And he said that, it's interesting, that we have people out there day after day after day and they never see anything.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually, the producers of Hard Copy shelled out for a Bell helicopter, a Bell jet helicopter, to fly over the area with a FLIR early in the morning. They did not see anything except a lot of elk and deer.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they. So
fake.
You know what? I like the footage. I'm not going to say I don't like the footage. I like the footage. That doesn't mean I think it's genuine, but I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to have to say not real, based on Freeman's reputation, based on actual investigations into it rather than wishful thinking. Meldrum or Krantz engaged in wishful thinking about the Freeman material. And Meldrum has done the same thing. So yeah, I'm definitely saying it's hoaxed.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that.
I used to be 50-50 on it, but I watched the original footage with those footprints and like, not convincing. Because if you look at the footprints, they don't look like any. They do not look like they would match any known animal, not even a Sasquatch. They look like clown feet with toes. That's what they look like.
Yeah, because they what they do is they take like wood blocks and they carve it into a shape of a footprint, and they just stamp them down to make it look good. And I completely agree with you. I don't think it's a real piece, just because of Freeman's reputation, and that he admitted that he faked footprints. I mean, what else can he fake? I mean, he can take the next step and fake a Bigfoot footage as well. I'm sure.
Well, he's no longer.
No, I'm sure
he's
Paul
no longer with us.
A good guy. I'm sure he was a good guy. And he has some, he just wanted, some fame and publicity. But
yeah,
I'm just going to say it's not real.
Well, yeah, he's no longer with us either. So, okay, let's move on to the next one.
Number 3.
The skunk ape. Yes, this is a very famous case.
Yep.
Okay, a lady who never stepped forward to identify herself. Apparently, she was an elderly lady. She had been having visits from this unusual animal near the Sarasota, Florida area. And a lot of people, called this a skunk ape. Now, Lauren Coleman looked into this case. And like I said, this letter and these photographs came in anonymously to, this is the Mayaka ape. That's what this is, the Mayaka ape. But you had these photos, this letter from an anonymous individual, but they knew it was an elderly lady. They didn't know who she was. She never identified herself. She sent these photographs. She said, I kept hearing a deep whoop sound in my backyard. And I put out apples for this thing to, she said she put out apples for this thing to eat. She was feeding it, in other words. She wanted to try and get a photograph of it. So she got a couple of photographs of what appears to be an orangutan type creature. And there is quite a resemblance to an orangutan.
Yeah, but the hair color is real black and dark and gray and white in some areas.
Yeah, and it has like a gray beard also.
And it looks like the thing is smiling.
Grimacing.
It
could be grimacing.
True.
Chimps can make faces like that.
Yeah.
Chimpanzees can make grimacing can make grimaces with their with their faces. They can make faces like that. Now, very interesting case. Again, the lady. This was in 2000, so this has been over 17 years. We don't know anything about the lady. We don't know exactly where these pictures were taken. Not the exact area. I mean, those palm fronds, there's palm fronds all over Florida.
Yeah.
All we know is it was in the Sarasota area. That's all we know about this.
Yeah, this one's a little harder. I'm going to go... It's some type of monkey. It's got to be a monkey. It's got to be some kind of loose chimpanzee roaming around. That's what I think it is. I don't think it's a skunk ape. I don't think it's a Bigfoot.
Or it's an orangutan, perhaps.
True.
And there was also the thought that it might have been some sort of an exhibit, like a display, and I think Ripley's Believe It or Not museum. It may have been a hoax, but there appears, if you look at the eyes, it appears that they're reflecting the flash of the camera.
Yeah, I don't think fake eyes can do that.
No.
Like so I'm gonna go undecided on this one, leaning towards an ape of some sort, but not a Bigfoot or skunk ape.
Yeah, that would be my assessment as well. Yeah, I don't think it's a skunk ape. And I imagine there have been times down there in Florida where actual apes have been mistaken for quote unquote skunk apes, because there are loose chimpanzees down there.
Mm-hmm.
Because they used to film all kinds of movies down there, and they would film jungle movies in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And they would use actual, apes and things like that in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't know they decided to just let the apes go. That's what they did. They let them go. So, so now we have actual apes, actual chimps and orangutans and all that. Florida.
Mm-hmm. Now this is second photo of it. That kind of looks like an animatronic to me as well. I'm going to put that in as well. That kind of looks like an animatronic. Maybe that's how the eyes can light up.
Yeah, that's entirely possible as well.
So if it is that Ripley's Believe It or Not exhibit, it might be an animatronic. But I'm going to go.
Could be.
Go with. I'm still saying it's not a Bigfoot assessment.
Now that's an orangutan. Okay, that's an actual picture of an orangutan.
All right, so this is the photo. Yeah, that does not look like the other photo. I don't see.
No, it really doesn't.
Maybe a little bit, but not entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to keep with my assessment. I think it's. I'm going to go with it's not a Bigfoot. It's not a skunk ape. That's my assessment.
Yeah, I think so too.
All right, here's number 2.
Oh, the Jacobs photos. Yes.
The Jacobson photos.
And we discussed these.
Yeah, we have
discussed these also.
Quite a few times.
This was in the Allegheny National Forest. Now, that's also where my friend Dave Groves had an encounter in 2010. And he sent me a magazine yesterday called Cryptid Culture.
Mm-hmm.
Right. He wrote about his encounter in that magazine. It's a good article. Has artwork by Sibylla Irwin. This was 2007. A guy named Rick Jacobs put out a trail cam, and he was using it. He was using it to probably. He was trying to lure deer to a salt lick, is what he was doing. That was the reason for the trail cam, and also for putting the salt lick out there. He was trying to lure deer.
Mm-hmm.
And this thing, whatever it is, showed up. Now it has long limbs, but it's really deceptive how the angle of that. But a lot of people have said that that's a bear. A lot of people have said it's a bear.
Mm-hmm.
I had originally said that it was probably some kind of an escaped chimpanzee or something.
Mm-hmm.
But the more I look at it, it probably is most likely a bear. Matt Moneymaker, he made a fool of himself when these photos were released. He said, "Oh, I immediately knew when I saw these photographs that they were a Sasquatch."
Yeah, I think I said it was a bear before, and I'm going to stick with that. I think it's a mangy bear.
Yes, it's a bear with mange, because we looked at photographs of bears with mange, if you remember.
Yeah, and they look really similar to that.
Yes, they do. So yeah, I'm going to say this is a mangy bear.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this about Rick Jacobs. He never actually said this was a Sasquatch.
Yeah.
He just presented these photos and said, "What do you think these are?"
Mm-hmm. And then there's
he's like
with the mangy bear.
He said I don't know what these are.
Mm-hmm.
Are they Bigfoot? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? He himself, because I asked him. He was on the X Zone back in, I think it was November of 2007. I asked him, what do you think these are? Do you think they're Bigfoot? He said, I don't know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
He said, I have never actually said these were Bigfoot. So, I mean, that big hump. Now, see, of course, they're trying to make comparisons with the, yes. Oh, hey. Yeah, we're going to get into
spoiler alert. Kind of spoiler alert for that one. I didn't stop it in time, but.
So, you see, we have a comparison to a chimpanzee or a gorilla.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Yeah.
But
far as I know, nobody reported any missing chimpanzees or anything like that in that area.
I hate to be all Renee. I'm having a hard time believing that there's going to be an escaped chimpanzee in, rural North Carolina.
No, this is Pennsylvania.
Oh, in Pennsylvania. I thought this was in North Carolina, but Pennsylvania.
Well, I have a hard time believing that nobody's gonna report a missing chimpanzee.
Yeah.
Or anything like that, because we know how dangerous chimpanzees are.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been reports of them. Yeah, I mean that chimpanzee a few years back ripping that woman's face off.
Yes.
And this is good, PSA. Chimpanzees are not pets. Do not keep a pet for a chimpanzee.
No, they are not. No. They are as strong as 10 men.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean, there was a guy out in California that got ripped up by a chimpanzee. He survived, but I mean, ripped his nose off, messed his face up badly.
Mm-hmm.
Ripped his testicles off. I mean, he was in bad shape.
I say, I wouldn't be so happy if my, testicles get ripped off. Oh man, that's just painful. Let's continue on here.
Yeah, let's
go to number one.
Yeah, we already know what number one is.
Number one.
Yeah, of course, this is one we've discussed. Yes, the Patterson-Gimlin
numerous times.
Numerous times, of course. We all know the story. Roger and Bob were in the Six Rivers National Forest. They rode into. They were there for about 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. They were actually looking for footprints. Roger was looking to film footprints. They just happened to run across this Sasquatch, if indeed that's what it is. I mean, and I personally, spoiler alert, it's real. Spoiler alert, it's a Sasquatch.
I absolutely agree.
I've been to that sign right there. I've been to that sign. Been right by it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been to that sign. That's right on Highway 96 going north. If you're going towards Wichipec.
Mm-hmm. And fun fact, this ties into an X-Files episode because this image was shown in an X-Files episode.
It was Jose Chung's from Outer Space.
Jose Chung's from Outer Space.
There's Roger and Bob. Bob wearing the Indian headdress. Now, go back to that photograph and pause it, if you would.
Oh, let me go back. This one right here?
Yes. Now, that photograph is now in the possession of Larry Lund, but it was not taken by Larry Lund, who actually took it, but it was in the possession of the third man from the right. If you're going up from Roger Patterson, there, and the individual beside him is John Ballard, and the individual to the left of John Ballard is Jerry Lee Merritt. Now, Jerry Lee Merritt was a rockabilly guitarist. He worked with artist Gene Vincent, who performed the song Bebop Balula.
I didn't know that.
And Gene Vincent was the brother-in-law of Larry Lund.
Oh, cool.
And Jerry Lee Merritt knew Gene Vincent because he was his guitarist.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry Lee Merritt had this photograph. Jerry Lee Merritt also knew Roger Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
They lived not very far from each other in the Antietam Valley. And he was supposed to go with Roger and Bob that morning. Before they left Yakima for Northern California, he was supposed to go with them. Jerry Lee Merritt was. But his wife said, if you go down there chasing monsters, don't bother coming back. So, hey, he had to keep the wife. No, he did not.
Go? Oh, okay. Good plan.
Keep the wife happy.
Good plan.
Go up from Jerry Lee Merritt to go up one. All right, that is go back down one more.
This one
that is Howard. Yes, that is Howard Hieronymus.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you why that name is significant in a second. Up from one from him with the Indian headdress is Bob Gimlin, or the wig. And then the individual at the very top, that is Bob Hieronymus.
Mm-hmm.
That is the man who claims he was in the suit in the Patterson-Gimlin film. This photograph was taken sometime in the spring of 1967, not very far from Yakima, somewhere up in the hills. Now, Roger Patterson was making a film where he was going to have recreations of Bigfoot encounters. And one time he wanted to use a neighbor's cat to simulate, or for a recreation, as far as he and his cowboys, all the cowboys that are in this photo, were supposed to chase this cat and act like they're chasing a Bigfoot. There, of course, the cat was going to be off screen. And the neighbor was like, no, Roger, you cannot use my cat. So, but yes, this was taken sometime about 5 months before the actual filming, the Patterson-Gimlin film. This knew Bob Gimlin, knew Roger Patterson a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Now,
matter of fact,
you said this was the other Hieronymus, so that's his brother?
That's his brother, Howard. Yes, that's his brother, Howard.
Now, I didn't know he had a brother.
He does. He has... I'm trying to think if he only has one brother or if he has more than one. But, Bob Hieronymus, from what I've heard from author David Murphy, who was supposed to write a book about Roger Patterson, that went unfinished, unfortunately. He had heard that Hieronymus's reputation around Yakima was that he was a drinker and a BSer.
Mm-hmm.
So that a lot of people actually, they loved Bob Gimlin. I mean, a lot of people supported, a lot of people, they liked Bob Gimlin before the film was taken.
Mm-hmm.
And then afterwards, supposedly, some people did kind of ridicule Bob and ridiculed his wife, Bob Gimlin,
mm-hmm.
and ridiculed his wife, Judy, and all that. But Hieronymus, of course, made the claim that he was the guy in the suit. Over that several times.
Yeah.
So,
what I'll do is I'll put the link in the description of our in-depth discussion of the PG film, so the people watching can learn more about it. But I didn't know Bob Hieronymus had a brother.
We actually had more than one discussion, if you recall.
So, we had. I'll put all the links into this. We had a debate with. We
had the debate with Melissa and Rob.
Mm-hmm.
The following week.
Mm-hmm.
It was the 2014. We had the on the 40th anniversary. We had the show.
Mm-hmm.
After I came back from California, back in October. So we've covered the PG film several times.
Absolutely, we did the 50th anniversary that just happened this last October.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, but I didn't know Bob Hieronymus had a brother, and that makes me wonder: has his brother ever came out about that PG film, or
His
has it been
brother,
quiet?
his brother was interviewed by Greg Long, and he backed up Bob Hieronymus's account.
Okay.
So, yeah. I think John Ballard was just a friend, like a family friend or something like that, of Hieronymus. But he was a cowboy who was hired by Roger Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to make a movie. They were going to make a cowboy movie with cowboys chasing Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
So,
all right, so let's go ahead and watch the thing.
Yeah. All right, this is from National Geographic, because you can tell by the logo. The Nat Geo logo.
No, that must have been a special from Nat Geo.
It was the very first one that they released in 2005. Bigfoot. Of course, it's all shaky and everything, but we've seen the technology in recent years where they've been able to stabilize the film.
Mm-hmm.
And we see Patty walking away. Aren't quite as clear as they should be.
Yeah, it looks like more of the an older film. Maybe it could be like a copy of the original before they enhanced it.
Yes, right. It looks as if they tried to stabilize it right there, but that's Roger. Now, pause this. Now, there's a controversy about that photograph. Two of the footprint casts, the two footprint casts that he and Bob took at the film site.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that photograph, okay, you can see that Roger appears to have 5 o'clock shadow.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a bit of film of Roger taking a footprint cast, supposedly at the film site. And he's clean shaven. But yet, if this photograph was taken at the film site during the day, and on the day the film was shot, and Roger has and Roger is clean shaven, how all of a sudden did he get 5 o'clock shadow?
Yeah.
Well, now, here's the thing. Now, Bill Munns believes that there's a possibility that this shot was taken actually in Yakima a few days later. And supposedly it was in a parking lot, and it was at night, and someone put a spotlight or a headlight on Roger, and they took the picture.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Grover Krantz wrote in his book, Big Footprints, and also Bigfoot Sasquatch Evidence, Roger Patterson had told Grover Krantz that he had made a film. He had made a film before the PG film was taken of himself making a footprint cast to demonstrate how it would look. So, we really don't know anything about this photograph, the provenance of it. The tree appears to be one that would be found at the film site and in that part of Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
But what if it's also a tree that is found near Yakima? We really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
What I believe is that Krantz was probably true, and that this picture was either taken at the film site and he had the 5 o'clock shadow, or it was taken in Yakima.
Mm-hmm.
But we really do not know for sure.
Yeah, and that's the problem with this whole story in general. We don't know what really went down. The only thing that we have the account for is Bob Gimlin, who's still alive with us today, and his version of the story, and the video
thing
itself.
Is, Bob may not remember when this photograph was taken or the circumstances of it either.
Yeah.
So if you were to ask him now, he'd probably be like, well, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Because it has been over 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we can go ahead and move on from that. But I just wanted to throw that little tidbit in there.
And here's some still shots of it. And the reason
I think those may have been, those were in a book. That looks like that was in a book. And that may be in either, I believe that's from Man Like Monsters on Trial. Because they had several of the Bruce Bonney prints in there. I believe those are some of the Bruce Bonney prints. Which at that time were some of the clearest. They were some of the clearest prints of frames of the film that had ever been made. And he cooperated with René Dahinden on that venture. So, okay, let's see. We go ahead and...
And here's the recreation suit that they did.
That's the supposed suit.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the Philip Morris suits, by the way.
Which looks nothing like the thing in the film.
No. Allegedly, Philip Morris said that he sold a gorilla suit to Roger Patterson, and then Patterson modified it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, there's one of the footprints. One of the feet. And there's a cast with Roger comparing his foot to it. Whoa. Let's go and pause right there real quick.
This is from the set of Planet of the Apes.
Yes, that's John Chambers. That is John Chambers, who created all the ape makeup and makeup effects for Planet of the Apes. Speculated for many years that he was the guy behind the PG film suit, the alleged suit.
Mm-hmm.
And set the record straight because it really made things better for business for him. Well, he told the late Bobby Short in 1997. Bobby Short was a registered nurse. She went to the nursing home he was in. Asked him, did you make this suit? If the film is a hoax, did you make the suit? And John Chambers told her, well, yes, I was good, but I was not that good.
Mm-hmm. I would have loved to see John Chambers try and recreate the PG suit or PG film.
Yes, that would have been interesting. Mm-hmm. That would have been interesting to see it done not too long after the film was released.
Because we said plenty of times before that, the technology they had back in the 60s, they could not recreate what is in that film.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we can do practically anything these days, especially with CGI. Yeah. But of course, PG film is not CGI. That's a great frame right there. I like that. That's pretty darn clear. Okay, pause again, if you would. With Janusz Prohaska. Okay, go ahead. All right, this is the individual that they're showing here, Janusz Prohaska. He was he was a gorilla suit maker, and he would wear gorilla costumes for different productions, movies, TV shows, and all that. He was widely considered one of the greatest ape imitators in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And he was interviewed by someone, not sure who interviewed him, but it was for the movie Bigfoot, Man or Beast. And they asked him about it. They said, do you think that, that creature, do you think that a costume like that could be possible? Do you think that they can make a costume like that? He said, that would be I don't think so. He said about the only way that you can make a suit like that would be to take an individual and glue individual hairs to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, well, first of all, you cover them with glue, it'd probably kill them.
Yeah.
Take individual hairs and glue them onto a person.
Yeah, because
we're talking about maybe.
Because you can see, okay, so you've heard of the myth of the whole body paint on Goldfinger, the woman that was painted in gold. She apparently suffocated because her pores, got clogged up, and she couldn't breathe properly. That's probably what would have happened if you cover someone with glue. The pores would be clogged. They won't be able to, breathe properly. So that's covering with glue is some insane idea that is not plausible to do.
Yes, it is. I mean, Janusz Prohaska, he said if that was if that was a costume, it was the best costume I have ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had been in the business since 1939.
Yeah, I mean, this dude was
and he was an ape imitator
of his time, and he's worn every single ape costume known to man. So I'm sure he has some pretty good experience.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
So he was very impressed with the Patterson-Gimlin film. He didn't necessarily say it was real, but he didn't say it was a hoax either. He just said if it was a costume, it was the best he'd ever seen. That's what he said. So there you go, and that's a very, very enhanced photo of when she turns to look at the camera.
Mm-hmm.
That has been, very enhanced, And I mean, there's some interesting facial features in there for sure.
I like how they put hoax on it.
Hoax? What?
It's not a hoax. Not a hoax.
There's Stan Winston. He was, of course, he was the genius behind Jurassic Park,
mm-hmm.
and also Aliens and other creature effects movies and things like that. And there's Roger and Bob. Now, why did they put hoax on there? Yeah.
I didn't listen to it. I turned the thing off.
There's Bob Gimlin. That was from the first Yakima Bigfoot Roundup, because I was there at that one.
Okay. I gotta say, Top 5 did a pretty good job of putting this video together with all the photos and everything. So, great shout out to them. But yeah, PG film, 100% real. 100% real. And like I said, I'll put all the videos that we've discussed previously in the description below and let you guys watch it and have some more information about it. But I think that's going to do it for us tonight on the XCast.
Again, almost 2 hours. Yeah,
again, really great episode. Really great episode.
Yes,
we had a little fun. We watched some Bigfoot. We did some Bigfoot videos and showed the history and our thoughts on it. Next week is going to be like a monster of the week, so we're going to have to find some kind of monster-like creature videos and take a look at those. But I cannot wait for next week. I think next week is going to be freaking epic. I think it's going to be a good another episode. And again, Ghoulie. And again, I have to give Lost Forehead Sweat, Lost Art of Forehead Sweat, a 9.5, 10. It was just a good episode.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I really enjoyed it quite a bit.
Next week, January 31st, the last day of January. Wow. This month is already gone. It just seemed like it just came.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it does.
Next week is going to be the 5th episode, the mid-season, I guess, halfway point of the season, because there's 10 episodes this season. Episode 5, Ghoulie, and like I said, I'm really anticipating on that one. And we will be live right after the X-Files to discuss the episode, and we're going to watch some monster videos as well. And yeah. So yeah, I guess that's it. So good night, everybody. We'll see you here next week.